Here you go, bro.
What up? Welcome to another edition of 22MW. My name's Tony. I'm coming to you from GBK Studios. Today I'm joined by my brother Kurtis. Kurtis, we don't have a theater movie for episode 117, which is like the beginning of June. What would you rather do? Now You See Me 2 or Warcraft?
If we do Now You See Me 2, do we have to listen to Brian's story about Now You See Me 1 in Syracuse for the third time?
I'm glad you remember the city.
Well, I did hear the story twice.
Okay,
I'm sorry
All
to
right.
Brian for giving you a hard time.
All right, so I don't want to do it either. I don't know. That Warcraft movie looks not good. Not
Video
good
game
at all.
movies usually aren't. Maybe we'll flip a coin, or why not let listeners decide?
Okay, we'll figure out what we're going to do.
All right.
I mean, if we get like a lot of emails saying one movie, we'll do it. But please don't make it Warcraft. All right, let's get into our top 22. What do you got, Kurtis?
Top 22.
I got Wednesday night, the NBA season ended, and the Warrior.
Pretty big night.
Yeah, Kobe threw up 50 shots and made a few of them to get 60 points in his career finale. But the top 22 is going to be the Warriors game. They won 73 games. I never thought that Bulls team, that 95-96 Bulls team with Jordan, Pippen, and Rodman, would set with 72-10. Only lost 10 games a whole year, and they beat it. And on top of that, Steph Curry made 400 3-pointers this year, breaking his own record, which was like 286. That's like
Wow.
Barry Bonds hitting 73 home runs, and then the next year he follows it up with like 110. I mean, what the Warriors did this year was unbelievable. I can't wait for the playoffs to watch them, especially fingers crossed when they play the Spurs in the Western Conference Finals.
But is it bringing in like an audience that doesn't normally watch the NBA? Is it doing anything for the actual sport?
So, there's been a lot said on that. In some ways, some people have said that it's lessening the sport. That the Warriors are so good, it's making people less interested. But some of their big games have been some of the biggest regular season draws in history. So it's a little bit of both. If they really start just steamrolling everyone in the playoffs, it could probably hurt the playoffs ratings. But when they get to play the Spurs, if they play the Spurs in the Western Conference Finals, a lot of people are going to tune in for that. There's only been, Tony keeps saying it on PTI, like there's only been like 6 or 7 teams that have ever won 67 or more games, and 2 of them were this year, and hopefully they're going to play each other in a best of 7 in a month or so. But the Wednesday night's finale, I stayed up till 1:30 to watch it. I was glad I did. Saw a couple crazy records broken. Well, I saw one finish 400, and then I saw the 73 wins. I don't think I'll ever see 74.
Yeah, it seems crazy. Only 9 losses all year. That's not super rare in the NFL though. I feel a lot of
To what?
9 losses. Anyway, all right. So my top 22 this week is something I talked about on our midweek episode, which I know Kurtis hasn't listened to yet. But it's from 1967. It's a Disney animated film called The Jungle Book. I rewatched this just like, it's like 76 minutes long. And I was like, I'll just rewatch it before I go see the remake, which we're going to be talking about later in the show. And do you remember that movie, Kurtis?
I remember barely any of it. I probably haven't seen that movie in 25 to 30 years. I thought about
Do you remember how it ends?
not the same way as this movie ends.
Right. It ends with Mowgli getting super lucky that a tree gets struck by lightning so that he has some fire to scare off Shere Khan. And I just thought, like, wow, Jon Favreau totally stole that ending for Iron Man 1. And it just came full circle. It was beautiful. I loved this movie as a kid. Like, there's not a ton of like animated movies I was into as a kid, But like Mowgli was like, this was back before like the internet and like before I hated animals and before I realized like you couldn't look up to a character that wasn't the same race as you. I wanted to be Mowgli. He just got to like run around and have a good time in his underwear all the time, and I was just like, yeah, get it, Mowgli. But we'll talk a little bit more about the Jungle Book coming up. But first, let's get into our first movie. Some more Kurtis picks.
I know. I'm going to hear it on one of these.
Oh, yeah, you are. God bless America. We'll get to that second.
Okay.
2015, directed by S. Craig Zahler, starring Kurt Russell, Lily Simmons, Matthew Fox, Patrick Wilson, David Arquette, Richard Jenkins, Sean Young in there as well. It's called Bone Tomahawk. So, I kind of have a thing where if I know I'm going to review a movie on the show, I don't want to listen to anyone else review it. So like I'll just like stop podcasts, and sometimes I'll have to just leave them there for like weeks if I know we're going to review it. But I never expected to review this movie. Again, Kurtis picked it. I heard lots of reviews on it, and well, basically like every review I'd heard was, and I hope I'm not ruining this for anyone, but whatever, it was, it's a little drawn out, but it has a big showdown, and it all builds to a big showdown. For me, the showdown wasn't that big. It was more just torture.
I don't even know what showdown they're talking about. I mean, there's a showdown at the end.
Yeah,
I guess. It's not very eventful.
It's horrifying. I mean, it's disgusting, and but you know what? I still kind of liked this movie. I liked the build. I liked the characters. I just didn't care for how graphic it got.
I thought it was going to be a lot more graphic, especially it's classified as a Western horror, and it's got a few graphic parts, but it's not that bad. I've seen way worse.
Have you?
Yeah.
What are you watching?
I don't know. I've just seen worse. It's not that. I wouldn't show this to kids at all, but especially before bedtime. But it's
that's rare for Kurtis, because that actually is saying something. Kurtis shows a lot of stuff to kids. Well, what do you think?
It was all right, I guess. It was too long, right? Like it wanted to be Tarantino with these conversations, and it wasn't Tarantino. And they could have probably just made a shorter movie about leaving out a few of these conversations, like about corn chowder that weren't exactly a Royale with cheese or a $6 milkshake type conversation.
It's weird how many times that stuff like that's been they've tried to recreate it, and even Tarantino sometimes doesn't get it right. Like, and it just fails miserably. And but you've seen Knocked Up, right?
Yeah, didn't we go see that together?
Yeah, we did. You remember when Katherine Heigl is telling Seth Rogen she's like got to go to work because she's interviewing Matthew Fox, and Seth Rogen's like, I forget what he says, but he basically just talks about how terrible Matthew Fox is. And like I tend to agree with that. Like I loved him as Jack on Lost, and I loved him in this.
I loved his character in this. I did not think he was good in this. I thought he was. I like that character, and I don't. It's really weird. At the end of it, I was like, well, you didn't really. And I could say this for all the. There's not a lot of character development or growth here. I mean, I guess a little bit. All the characters are kind of the same at the end as the beginning. Maybe if anyone had some, it was him. But
yeah, they definitely.
I was wanting a little more from him, but I guess I got invested enough that I actually like stopped and think, like, wow, I'm actually interested in what this character's doing. Maybe less. I don't know. I just didn't think he was very good. I liked the old deputy. He was my favorite character.
Yeah, Richard Jenkins was pretty good in it, but you're right. Kurt Russell, like his character didn't show growth, but he didn't really need to. He showed that he backed up what he talked about.
Yeah.
He put his money where his mouth was, and that that's good enough. That's a good arc. I mean, that was cool. Again, I could have done that without a lot of it. This one isn't for everyone, but I kind of liked it. I didn't mind watching it.
Same thing. It it annoyed me sometimes. Other times I was really into it. I wish it was an hour and 40 minutes instead of 2 hours and 10 minutes or whatever it was. But 2:12, so I was pretty close. That's really all I have to say about it. It's definitely not for everyone, but it wasn't that bad. It's all right.
3 swing shifts out of 5.
Definitely 3 out of 5.
So, in the history of the show, like the majority of the movies I've picked, and it's been nice that Kurtis he gave me lists of movies he wanted to pick or whatever, but it just hasn't been going well. And I've turned Kurtis on to some of his favorite movies of all time: Windy City Heat, Daddy's Home. But
who showed you the hammer and King of Kong alone? Gets and Rock of Fire.
That's before the podcast. We're talking about through the podcast
okay.
here. So, Kurtis, I turned this, like I had a really long day at work on Thursday. I came home and I turned this instructions not included on, which I'm about to introduce. And this movie is 95% in Spanish, right?
I would say it's 70% in Spanish. I didn't know that. It's got a white blonde girl on the front, and the title is in English.
From 2013, directed and starring Ingeno de Breeze. I don't know how you say his name. Loretto Pertella's in it. Jessica C. Lindsay, Daniel Raymont. It's called Instructions Not Included, and I couldn't do it Thursday night, but like I'm running out of time. Like, we usually go at 6. Kurtis, I don't know. He's such a prima donna. Doesn't want to record at 6 anymore. So I didn't really know that I was going to have time to watch it after I went to go see Jungle Book. I didn't know when I was going to get out of work, and so I had to get up early on Friday and watch it. And I'm just like sitting there and I'm just reading all these subtitles, and I'm like, why, Kurtis?
I didn't know it had subtitles.
What did you think of the movie?
I know you're gonna crap all over it because it had subtitles, but I didn't think it was that bad. I thought I kind of liked it. I really feel like there was a much better movie in here that, in fact, maybe like a really beautiful movie that kind of got lost. This movie's tone was all over the place. It sometimes over the place. And that's not always a bad thing, but you got to tie it together, and this movie definitely didn't do this. I mean, it was Joe Dirt 1 minute, Parenthood the next, and then tried to be super serious drama other times. And
then at one point the judge turns into a dog, which
by the way, that dog looked just like that judge. That was great casting on that dog and that judge. But there was no doubt that dog was supposed to be that judge. But
I still don't get that. Like, okay, let me just say this. Like, I don't know, like maybe an hour in or whatever, like I didn't mind reading the subtitles anymore. I was actually into this movie. And it works a lot of the time. And a lot of the time it goes crazy and like it just does stupid stuff that doesn't, like the movie has a lot of heart, and there's some really good parts in this movie, and it takes some really actually interesting turns. At one point it takes a turn and I just go like, why? No. And then it fixes it. And I'm like, oh my God, it's annoying that it's in Spanish. But it actually is a pretty solid movie.
Yeah, so it's solid, and I anything I negative would say about it, I think it could have been better if it had been a little bit tighter. It tried to do too much, and every time it took kind of an interesting take, it sometimes forgot about it for another interesting thing. It did a lot of interesting things, and I don't want to spoil this, so I'm not going to really go into details, but the weirdest part was the tone. The tone just would switch so dramatically so often, and it didn't do it in a very good way.
Yeah, it wasn't like, hey, we took you down, let's kind of bring you back up a little bit. It was like, we took you down, we showed something really kind of heart-wrenching, and now we're going to show this guy's butt after he's getting drugged by a car.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it literally goes from Joe Dirt to Shakespeare several times in this movie. But it has a lot of sweet moments. It has some heart-wrenching moments.
And it's pretty true to life. Women are terrible. They do terrible things, and then they build terrible things on their other terrible things.
Oh, I even thought the stuff with the mother. Yes, she did some terrible things. I even thought it was well done, and there were some good moments with that too.
Well, no, it makes for a good story, but she's a villain. I mean, she's terrible.
But unlike a lot of movies, they actually gave this villain some reasons why she's doing what she's doing.
How terrible was his hair at the beginning?
Well, I noticed, like, on the, when you bring it up in Netflix, that's not the hair he had. I kept being like, okay, so he's not going to have this hair the whole movie, right? Please don't have this hair the whole movie. You're not going to have the, okay, finally, he doesn't have the hair anymore.
I'm like, keep the hair, get rid of the subtitles. I really was going like, well, I knew that I just figured, like, as soon as I realized, like, they were putting text. They were converting text into...
The first time it said 6 weeks later, my Spanish is bad, but yeah. And I was watching this with the wife, and she was like, this whole movie's going to be in subtitles, isn't it? And I was like, yeah, Tony's going to kill me. I didn't know it was.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I was like, why did Kurtis do this to me? What did I do to him?
Well, the guy who made this, I mean, he's clearly doesn't really speak English. I think he would have spoke English in this movie if he could. And also, I don't think he has to be a real, I mean, I guess he's Mexican in the movie, because he had some weird things about America, he thought. That, like, seeing a lesbian couple, is like, they acted like that was a big deal. It's not a big deal. That everyone in Los Angeles speaks Spanish. I don't think that's true. I don't think your white 90-year-old landlord usually speaks perfect Spanish. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I'm sure some of them do, but he got very lucky that everyone except that black bellhop spoke Spanish.
Yeah, very few people didn't. The director didn't. Some people he was shooting with sometimes didn't, but his daughter was there for that. Yeah, and I thought the girl that played his daughter was really good.
Yeah, she was.
And in the end, I liked this movie. Again, like, don't watch it after a long day of work. Like, I don't want to sit there and read crap. Like, I've given this spiel time and time again, right? Like, didn't you pick something else that had subtitles?
I don't think so. The last time we talked about subtitles was Kill Bill, where you gave me a version of the movie to watch because I was traveling and I needed an offline version, and you gave me a version of the movie that didn't have subtitles,
which is better.
Well, I will say though, the end of this movie was kind of weak though, right? That it just, I don't want to give anything away, but that it just kind of switched to voiceover all of a sudden.
Well, that was I liked the ending. I thought it was kind of spot on and kind of worked, and
I liked what it presented, but I thought it could have presented it better with an actual scene or two instead of just a voiceover. But that was kind of this movie in a nutshell.
I just wish they'd taken the Kirk Cameron route and done the narration over in English. They could have at least done that, I think. That wouldn't have been too expensive. But a lot of reading here. But it actually kind of works when he's kind of like being chastised for not learning English in 6 years. I thought that was kind of an interesting point because I was frustrated that he didn't learn English in 6 years too. So, to me, not for everyone. 3 books of life out of 5.
I actually think most people like this. It is a little long, but and it definitely can get crazy, but it's going to make you feel some things. And at the end of the day, I think you'll be kind of glad you watched it, because I was, even though I knew Tony was going to be mad about the subtitles. 3 out of 5.
Up next, in theaters now, directed by Jon Favreau, starring, I guess you say his name, Neil Sethi, Ben Kingsley, Bill Murray, Scarlett Johansson, Idris Elba, Christopher Walken, Lupita Nyong'o, and Gary Shandling. It's called The Jungle Book. It's a remake. This is something Disney's been doing the last couple years. They've been remaking their animated classics, which is weird too because they're still making like good new animated movies, but they're also like, hey, let's take these classics and redo them. And I think this is the first one I've seen. I didn't see Maleficent. I didn't see Cinderella.
Yeah, I didn't see either of those. You think we'll get live action Wreck-It Ralph in like 30 years?
That would be cool. All right.
Maybe.
I know they're doing. Tim Burton's doing Dumbo right now. I know they're working on a few more of these, but all I gotta say is this movie is bangarang. I went and saw it IMAX 3D. This movie just looked amazing. Everything looked so good together. This movie blended the original that I love. I took the perfect amount out of it and then put enough new stuff into where the story felt fresh. And Mowgli was a hero in this one as opposed to the first one where he just got lucky. And I didn't really clarify on that. Like, I'm cool with Mowgli getting lucky and defeating Shere Khan because he's not a superhero. I'm not cool with Tony Stark doing it.
I love how we gotta have this revisionist history on the MCU now that we're a DCCU fanboy.
I mean, all our stuff's on tape, dog. I said this long ago.
No, I have on tape Tony talking about the original Iron Man. He has pretty much all positive things to say about it. So
I don't think that's the case.
Okay, well it's on YouTube, so I'll send it out.
Okay, do.
Okay, I thought this movie was pretty good. It's okay. It wasn't. First of all, I also saw it in 3D. And the reason we're having to record a little bit late is my son wanted to go see it, and him and his mother could not get home in time to go to an earlier showing that would not have been 3D. Or maybe it would have. I don't know. Like, why do we... I thought the 3D looked like crap. Every time it wasn't trying to be 3D, I thought this movie looked gorgeous. Every time it turned the 3D on, it looked awful. 3D is terrible. It sucks. Stop making movies in 3D. You're trying to blend this live-action kid with these CGI animals that look amazing, and in a lot of cases CGI backgrounds, so stop having him stand out from the background for 3D. It makes it look like crap. When you're not doing that, he blends in seamlessly. When you're trying to do the clever 3D stuff, it looks like he's standing in front of a green screen. So I wish I had seen this not in 3D. I think I would have been much more impressed with it visually. When the rare cases they weren't trying to show Shere Khan jumping out the screen at me or Baloo's nose in my face, it did look amazing. The creatures looked amazing. But every time they went to the 3D well, it looked awful.
I don't know the difference between 3D and IMAX 3D. But I thought it looked great. I'm not a big 3D guy either, but I just thought like, well, maybe this is something that'll actually look good in that way, and it really did. Everything really popped. It looked good. Maybe a little bit of what you're saying about that it made it look like it was on a green screen at times, but this kid, this Neil kid, like it looks like they asked a lot of him, right? He looks super young, and
yeah,
I mean, there's some moments where you go like, he probably could have delivered that line a little better, but
there's quite a few of those moments, yeah. But he was all right. He was okay. Sometimes he was actually pretty good.
No, there were a lot of times he was really good. When they're singing the song, I know he didn't know all the words to the Bare Necessities, but when they're singing the song, he's like super charming and good, and he's just got all these moments. And I like that they. I don't know the book. I'm not familiar with it. I like that they added the tricks in, and he's getting to like the depth they were actually able to add to it was super good. Like they fleshed out his character, and they did a couple other things. And again, it was enough of the old and a lot of new too, and it felt really, really fun.
I haven't seen the old in 25, 30 years, like I said, so I don't know that I can totally compare it to that. But
well, it is so good, and the guy that does Baloo in that, Phil Harris, I'm just like, wow, this guy's amazing. I don't know how Bill Murray's going to follow this, and I think a lot of Bill Murray, I really do. But I thought he killed it. I thought it was really well casted as far as Bill Murray as Baloo.
He had to do motion capture, right? Because that bear had like the Bill Murray facial expressions and ticks.
Yeah. Even like when he's licking the honey off the pig, like I don't know, it was like a bear of Bill Murray. It was. I know
it was kind of scary a couple times.
I know to most people he's Garfield, and they only will represent his voice behind an orange cat that loves lasagna. But I think he kills it here. I thought there were a lot of really solid performances. Scarlett Johansson's barely in this. The original cartoon has like, I think a female dialogue is like 2 lines. A female elephant says something, and then like the girl sings at the end.
Well, the singing in this was weird.
No, it was the right amount, right?
The right amount would have just been the Bare Necessities little tribute. The King Louis song was just weird. It didn't fit with the rest of the movie.
When you mean the trip, like when he's humming it, or when they actually sing? Both.
Because it's not. They don't go into a full musical number. They're just going down the river singing.
Neither did King Louis.
He kind of did. He was definitely putting on a show. Sometimes two friends sing a song together. That's something that happens. People aren't pontificating in front of all of their subjects and then just suddenly break into a random song that's explaining what's happening in the movie right then at that time. It's two totally different things. But
you're right when you say people don't do that. If monkeys do that, I just don't know. Monkeys are kind of showmen at heart, and this is the king monkey. So, like, it wasn't a reach for me. Like, I get why they didn't have the elephant singing the song and Mowgli marching behind the baby elephant. And that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about that they changed that really worked. I thought the way they brought the elephants, the way they made them cool with Mowgli was really neat. I love this movie. I had such a good time.
The fact that they were gods seemed kind of weird, but the scene where with the other scene where he gets on their good side, that was pretty cool. I thought this was okay. I took Gene. He seemed to enjoy it. A couple parts were kind of scary for him, but toughens him up. So who cares? But not bad movie, and take the kids and it'll be all right.
Another reason I went to go see IMAX 3D. I was like, I think there will be fewer kids in there, but they'll be richer. So their parents will probably not tell them to shut up.
It was $42 for the three of us to see this. That's an expensive movie.
Yeah, I mean IMAX is $15 a pop. So
yeah, good thing we didn't go IMAX. We just saw standard 3D, whatever that is.
Yeah, I don't really know what the difference is, but I don't know.
Apparently, it's standing in front of a green screen.
Did it look as bad as that fourth Indiana Jones movie?
No. Again, when it wasn't trying to do things, those animals looked incredible. They looked so real. When Baloo's in the water and you can actually see his fur getting wet, it looked amazing.
Well, like when it's raining with the wolves, even before that, and like Mowgli's like touching his mom, you know,
and even stuff where they have like the 500 monkeys running around. They took the time to put the lighting on them and make them look like they interacted. And granted, I think most of the backgrounds are also CGI in a lot of these, so that's probably makes it a little bit easier. But I've seen so much lazy CGI that it was nice to see that someone put a lot of time and effort into making sure it looked good. It definitely. Hard work was put into this. Effort was put into making it look good. Too bad the 3D ruins it so many times.
All right. What are you going to rate it?
3 out of 5.
Wow. That's crazy. This is easy 5 man cubs out of 5. I love this movie.
I thought it was pretty good.
Up next, we are going to do a little watch it, rent it, forget it with a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie that is coming out October, I think. It's called Doctor Strange. The first trailer dropped this week. What'd you think about it, Kurtis? And watch it, rent it, forget it.
Well, I mean, everything Marvel does is a watch it, right?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. I think so. But based on this trailer, I'm probably only going to say rent it. But sometimes that's a good thing. I don't want too much given away. I think the one thing I took away from this trailer is that it is going to be an origin story after they had said they're not going to do an origin story for Doctor Strange, right? This trailer makes it pretty clear there's going to be an origin in there.
Yep.
So
there's going to be a terrible American accent in there as well.
I've never heard him do an American accent before, I don't think. So it was kind of maybe.
Did he do one? He had to do one in 15, 12, some amount of years a slave. 12 years of slave.
No, I think even in that he had like he's the slave owner, so they had. I'm sure it wasn't his normal English accent, but he definitely had I think he had an English accent, sort of. But he clearly has an English or an American accent.
Yeah, for me, this is a watch it. This is like the kind of trailer I like. Doesn't give me a ton about what's going to happen in the movie. It's a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, so of course I'm excited about it, even though I'm sure it's going to have a million terrible jokes, but I like that they didn't put any in the trailer there. I don't know a ton about Doctor Strange. I know we're gonna review the animated movie that's got rave reviews. We're gonna review that the week before this comes out, so I'll know a little going into it. But as of now, I don't know a lot, and I kind of like that. So
I know almost nothing about Doctor Strange except that he's supposed to be magic, which I think we talked about this way back when we did that Marvel Way Too Serious. That
I thought you had committed that episode to heart.
well, I think I am because we talked about in that Thor had said there is no magic, that it's all science. So it'll be interesting to see if they say that still.
I think what he says is what you call magic, we call science, which just means he's a loon. That's all.
Maybe.
No big deal.
All
right, so I had something I wanted to talk about. I don't really have a segment name for this. It's just like a celebration. It's something that we talked about in the past that I guess we got some vindication on this week. So there's a movie coming out this weekend called Criminal. We reviewed the trailer a couple weeks ago. It's got everyone from the DCU in it, including Gary Oldman. And I don't know if you saw this, Kurtis, but he came out this week and he talked about his feelings on a little movie called Sid and Nancy. And he said anytime he sees that movie on TV, he wants to throw the TV out of the house.
So he agrees with us, it's terrible?
He does. He kind of backtracks a little bit afterwards, because he doesn't want to be disrespectful and he likes the cinematographer or whatever. But he says it's bad, and it was. It was bad.
What was it? 91% on Rotten Tomatoes? 90? It was over 90, right?
Yeah, I think so. And that, I don't know. Don't get it. Gary Oldman doesn't get it either. So
still the most painful thing I ever had to watch for any podcast.
At least it didn't have subtitles, but maybe it could have gone for some.
It needed some.
All right, so this midweek, Kurtis requested that we do this.
No, I requested we don't do 3 barbershop movies in one episode, and you're like, okay, and then we're doing 3 barbershop movies in one episode.
Yeah, we are. Thanks to Kurtis. And then we're going to have a normal show next weekend. So tune in midweek for that. Kurtis is going to tell you what's coming up next weekend.
After we do 3 barbershop movies, we'll do another one in Barbershop. Is it called Barbershop 3 or is it called something else? Barbershop.
I think 3, a new cut or something. I don't know. It's got a subtitle.
Barbershop 3. We'll also be looking at Paperman and Infinitely Polar Bear,
which is a really weird name for a movie. I don't know.
I think Mark Ruffalo's bipolar in it.
And they call bipolar people polar bears?
I don't know. I haven't seen the movie yet.
Can you do that?
I don't know. Maybe we'll find out in the movie.
My friend Blake Bolin, his dad was bipolar, and I always called him Bipolin Bolin. I thought that was a great name. Super insensitive. Gotta go, son.
Pay attention.